So Scott, tell me, so on hearing Tony Abbott, a former Prime Minister, frame his concern about migration to Australia, give me your reaction to at least a former Prime Minister's view of it. What are you hearing there? How does that translate to you?
It translates that there is some political understanding, albeit in a former Prime Minister, of the issues and concerns that Australians, everyday Australians, are having around how our country is being shaped and what the future looks like for us.
The book by Tony Abbott and other people have pointed to the success that Australia has had in significant part because a lot of people have come here from overseas. How do you see that story, that success story for Australia?
Well, we should be proud of the success story that we had post-World War II. We took in a lot of European migrants because we had soldiers that had fought in the war over there and they had seen what was left behind in Europe. We welcomed them with open arms, but we had a very different migration scheme post-World War II as we do now. Put aside the White Australia policy, what we had was a requirement for skilled migrants. So we wanted carpenters from Italy, from Greece, from Germany. We wanted them to come here. And when they did get here, we sent them to work on projects like, the Snowy Hydro. And they went out there for 2 years and they understood and learned how to integrate into Australian culture by working on projects that helped to build this great country of ours. That's very different, Steve, to the scheme that we have now, where we allow people in at record levels, levels never seen before, in the middle of a housing crisis, in the middle of a cost of living crisis, to play catch up from COVID. We also have temporary students, temporary visa holders moving into Australia and using that as a pathway to residency here. And I don't blame them. I wouldn't want to go back to the country I came from in the subcontinent either. I'd want to stay in Australia. That's very different to what we used to have.
Now, whenever I speak with a policymaker, federal level, or a lobby group, sort of the Business Council of Australia or the Australian Industry Group, they say we need to bring in these skills. So even though we've got roughly 1 million unemployed people in Australia, we don't have the skills needed to build the infrastructure, to build the houses, to look after people in hospitals, to look after our aged care centres. So that they're bringing in these people from other countries because they have skills that Australia needs.
Well, let's define those skills. On the recent list of required skills was auctioneers, yoga instructors. I mean, let's be real about this. Less than 2% of all the migrants that moved to Australia, to look at seeking residency here in the last 2 years, had any construction skills. We're in the middle of a housing crisis. We've got somewhere between 150 and potentially 250,000 people sleeping rough in Australia right now because they can't get homes. So why? I mean, okay, who is the Business Council really representing here? Is it Coles and Woolies? Is it big box retailers? It's not small to medium enterprises like I run. Yeah. We're not bringing in carpenters that we can use.
Yeah, they represent big business. There's no doubt about that. Big 100%. Business needs skilled people. Yeah.
Well, I'm representing small business. And I'm representing everyday Australians, and this is why we are marching for Australia.
Okay, well, give me your story of a small business person who works in sort of housing, construction, in that sort of general sector. What's troubling you in that, Scott Shallowchal?
Well, I own a small to medium enterprise in Australia with around about 22 employees at any given time at the moment, and as many contractors kind of hanging off the sides of that. I've been in business for 17 years, Steve, and I've never seen it harder. I'm in an industry, especially the building industry, where 7,000 builders have gone broke in the last 2 years. Now, we brought in 1 million people to live here as full-time residents in the last 2 years. In the middle of a housing crisis where 7,000 building companies have gone under. I was reflecting on this morning when I was walking into the studio, and I was thinking about the world that we lived in 10 years ago versus today. And 10 years ago, I could supply you with a brand new home for around about $2,000 a square metre. Now it's $6,000 to $8,000 a square metre, 10 years later. In another 10 years, Steve, what if it's $15,000 to $20,000? I mean, that sounds ridiculous. But if you'd have asked me 10 years ago, would we be paying $6,000 to $8,000, I would have laughed at you because it wouldn't have felt real. I can't get projects approved. We're gridlocked with bureaucracy. During that 10-year period, we have layered in so many requirements under the National Construction Code now for compliance. Now, I don't know about you, but I live in a house that was built in 1953.
Mine's roughly the same.
100%. You've raised your family there. You live in it. I've raised 4 daughters in my home. My home has not fallen apart. It hasn't sunk into the earth. It hasn't been flooded. It's a wonderful old house. I can't build that house for you these days, Steve. And even if I could, it's not going to look anything like it currently does. Now, people will say, well, that's good because we're more thermally and energy efficient homes and we're saving the planet and we're reducing our CO2 outputs. Yes, but we have 250,000 homeless people. So it's not working.
Now, when I speak with some policymakers, not all, they say this is the reason why we need to bring in people with skills for construction and infrastructure to solve that very dilemma that you have articulated.
Well, where are those people going to work? They're going to work on green energy projects. They're going to work on wind farms. They're going to work on solar projects. They're going to work on stuff that isn't going to help make your life better today. That's the difference.
They're not building houses.
They're not building houses. And even if they had the skill set to build houses, which they don't, because let's be very clear about this, an Indian carpenter is not an Australian carpenter. It's hard work to become an Australian carpenter. It's 4 years. It's a long commitment. It takes some time.
So the Australian design rules, housing construction code, things like that are very different.
100%. It's not even comparable. There is no comparison. So when people say we're bringing in skills, I look at it and laugh because I've seen these guys in action. They don't know how to read plans properly. Oh, we're going to upskill them to Australian standards. It still doesn't work, and it doesn't work in an efficient time frame. We need to be getting more Australian kids into apprenticeships, and instead of encouraging so many kids to go to university, that's been one of our biggest failings.
My guest is Shallowchal. He's known on social media as Shallowchal. That's his term, not mine, by the way. He is also the Queensland organiser of the March for Australia.
One of,
my apologies. One of the reasons why I wanted to speak with you, Scott, is, as you know, you've been framed, when March for Australia first appeared, you were framed, for good or for ill, as a racist or as a closet Nazi or as a closet fascist. But what you've just expressed to me is more a sort of an economic concern about economics and housing. So I want to give you the chance to sort of say, frame yourself. In organising the March for Australia, what are you marching for as one of the organisers?
There's a lot of problems in this country right now. And there's a lot of people saying that we need to be pushing back against the potential for digital ID, under 16 social media ban, tyrannical government, oppressing our freedoms, etc. All of these things are valid concerns that the Australian people have. But the number one thing that we all see every day that's in our face is the fact that we imported in the last 2 years enough people to fill Canberra or Hobart. That is a noticeable feel. Now, if you've tried to drive from this beautiful office in South Bank where we are at the moment, out to Ipswich at 6 o'clock in the morning, you are in gridlock traffic, leaving town, not even getting into town. Everyone's feeling it. Every capital city is feeling that. We've got kids that are looking at potentially 10 to 15 times their annual wage as adults to be able to purchase a house anywhere near within working distance of a capital city right now. This isn't working. There are intrinsic structural failures here that are being papered over by a government that's obsessed with GDP growth, that doesn't want to be responsible for a recession, that's just importing people like crazy to make things look better. March for Australia is a singular point of focus. The ability to be able to shut our borders and control the immigration rate. The idea that we are playing catch up from COVID is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous.
I think that's past now. Yes.
I think we're well past that. Plus, I heard this argument made really well. If you had to slow down for roadworks on a 110 kilometre an hour road and you were stuck there for half an hour, it doesn't mean you drive at 180 to play catch up for the time that you've lost. This is what we've done in Australia with migration. The other key thing here is to identify the 2 different types of migration. We've got the net overseas migration number. That's the amount of people that have stayed here after after people have left, which in the last 12 months was 450,000. The year before it was 550,000. This is how we come up with the million number. But we also have between 2.7 and 2.9 million temporary visa holders in this country at any given time, supporting things like the university sector, which isn't helping build our country, and it's also putting massive pressure on infrastructure, housing, and the cost of living in this country. 1 in 10 people are here on temporary visas. This is a discussion that needs to be had. Your everyday Australian can see it, they can feel it, especially in their grocery bills and their fuel bills and their energy costs being on the road, for example. And so they want to have that discussion. Politicians will not talk about it, and for good reason. They're scared. They're scared to talk about it because you'll be labelled a phobe or a Nazi or what have you. We are telling them, this is the signal, we are telling them that it is safe to have this conversation. And as you've seen in the last couple of weeks, Steve, politicians are starting to have the conversation.
Indeed they are. My guess is Shallowchal. So you don't care about the race or the racial origin of a migrant to Australia. You're concerned about the Australian government's handling of the immigration settings and the number of people coming into the country, no matter where they're coming from.
Let's be clear about that though. We want to bring in people that have the skills to assimilate with Australian culture. If your cultural values are to come over here and fly the flag for Palestine or Israel or any other country that isn't Australia first, I'm sorry, but we don't have time for you. This movement is about Australia and Australian patriots. If it's not Australia first, we don't care.
So you want something that's similar to the post-World War II migration program that you mentioned in the beginning of our discussion.
We want to have a debate about it. We want to talk about it. We want to understand what the best way forward is for our country. We all know that if they shut the gates right now and closed off immigration, we would slide into a recession very, very quickly. It would be painful. But what we would need to do then is fix the intrinsic structural problems within our economy that's holding everything else back. And that would help rectify that problem.
Is anyone in federal politics talking about that or framing it that way, Shallowchal?
100%. So we've got a couple of really big prominent politicians marching with us this weekend on Sunday, October the 19th. And as
do you want to name them?
I'll be a little careful at the moment.
Right.
I'm not sure when this interview will be released by you, Steve,
Yep.
but that information will come out on the Friday before the march. And for good reason, we want to make sure that people are safe and protected as well. There are elements out there that have tried to disrupt and cause problems for this movement, and so we'll maintain security and integrity.
Now, on that, the ABC has an investigative division where they sort of check facts. It's called ABC Verify. And ABC Verify did some work and found that in some of the social media posts promoting March for Australia were attached posts promoting white nationalist themes and in one case actual pro-Nazi memes. Now these are people that were attached to or hooked onto some of the March for Australia posts. I don't think that they were your posts and such, but they're part of the March for Australia movement. Can you address that? Do you know about that? Do you support that? Do you seek that?
So let's be clear about that. Is that people posting a comment in the March for Australia information? Is that what they're talking about?
All I can say is that they were linked to social media posts.
I would say
that's how it's been described by the ABC's. In other words, everyone who has social media, that puts out a post, and someone can retweet it or resend it out or attach their own statements and comments to that. And so I think that's where the word linked to social media posts comes from. And I want to give you a chance to address that at all.
Yeah, it's a great one to talk about. Well, let's use it. Let's understand it for what it is. It's a barometer of discontent that's out there. We have people falling into the fringes of political ideology in this country, potentially NSN, neo-Nazis, Antifa on the far left, because they aren't given the economic opportunities to be a productive part of our centre, sensible, centre-right Australia. They're not given those opportunities. So they are fringes that are falling out. This is why this debate has become so divisive. You can't blame someone for looking outside the standard box of the centre for an opportunity they can align with when they have no opportunities in Australia right now. They can't afford a house, they can't get a job, they can't have a meaningful career, and they're being told that they're going to be rent subscribers for the rest of their lives.
When the first March for Australia happened in Brisbane, I had a number of text messages from my listeners to ABC Radio, and they said they wanted to join the march, but they were worried about neo-Nazis. They don't want to be associated with neo-Nazis or fascists, and that's what prevented them from actually physically marching? Because much of what you're talking about, they've said, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
But they don't want to be associated with something that our grandparents fought against in World War II.
Yeah.
What's your message to them then, Scott Shallowchal?
Well, there is no future in Australia for dead European ideologies. It's as simple as that. And as one of the organisers for Brisbane, I can assure you that we have a controlled speaker set. We have a controlled environment. We've got a huge amount of security.
You've got no neo-Nazis, fascists, whatever speaking.
And we certainly don't have any communists or Antifa guys either. So
Right,
no,
yeah.
we don't.
So you're trying to weed the extremes out.
Well, the extremes have a voice and they deserve to be heard. And just in the same way that I would say the NSN have a voice, they have a voice for a reason because they've been created by the economic conditions in this country. Antifa are no different. The extreme left are just as violent, if not worse, probably worse in most cases. They were the ones instigating violence in Melbourne, of which I do not advocate for in any way, shape or form.
Yeah.
We run a safe event in Brisbane, and speaking for Queensland, we know that Queenslanders do things great. We're the Origin winners, we're the AFL winners, the NRL winners. We do things differently in Queensland. We're amazing. And look, Australia will have great events. Everyone should feel comfortable and safe to go out.
Are any political parties aligned with March for Australia? Labor Party, Liberal Party, Greens, LNP, One Nation, the Socialist Alternative, I don't know. Are any political parties formally aligned with you? Are you linked in with any political party or movement directly?
We've got a number of political parties that have reached out to us to be a part of this now, and that's because we've created the safe space for them to step into. We know that One Nation are surging in the polls, and if anyone understands how One Nation can surge, it's Queensland, because they've seen it happen here before.
Yeah.
So we know that this is pushing the Overton window into a place where those minor parties might have more influence and sway. The Liberal Party and the Labor Party, the difference between those two right now is literally paper thin on this issue. Paper thin, Steve. This is why people are so disenchanted with the right side of politics, especially conservatism and the Liberal Party in Australia. And they're bleeding out votes for that reason. Their support is crumbling. Look, if the Liberal Party wants to be the Labor Party light, this is what's going to happen. And you will see the emergence of more minor right parties.
Are you a member of any political party?
No, the Liberal Party kicked me out about 6 months ago, mate. It was probably the best thing that could have happened because, hypothetically, here I am, and I'm a social media active guy. I've got a big following on social media. I put my head above the parapet.
Fairly provocative, I think, from memory.
Well, my content is about the building industry. I've been making content for over 2.5 years now, telling you that it's not working, that the 1.2 million housing target wasn't going to be met. All of the things that are unfolding right now, I was talking about 2.5 years ago, and that's why I joined the Liberal Party, got involved, got active, tried to get into policy positions with regards to committees and stuff, and then was abruptly terminated. My membership was terminated because I was a supporter of Jared Rennick, who they ultimately pushed out the door as well.
So now he's what? People First, I think. Is
People First, and he got 150,000 votes in Queensland last time, and he'll probably do better next time, I imagine.
You're not a member of People First?
No, I'm not. I've decided not to join any political party. I'm having a great time being involved with the MFA, the March for Australia, and I believe that being a free agent at the moment gives me the ability to promote the right people and also trash the wrong people.
Appreciate you coming in. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve.